Hi, all, and welcome to Monday night's All Metal Mode podcast with Gypsy, myself, Amanda Digger-DeGaz, and special guest Wayne Peterson. Before we get started with the show, just a reminder, March Dirt Digest magazine is available at dirtdigestmagazine.com. Click on current issue. Also, Dirt Digest magazine is accepting submissions for their April issue. Have some treasures you want to share or a metal detecting story? Now is your chance. All info on how to submit a find or story can be found at dirtdigestmagazine.com. Next up, check out Joanna Lesnica's new article on allmetalmode.com. Dear person, give me the stink eye while I metal detect. I'm sure we've all been there and have had that same type of thing happen. So it's definitely a great new article to check out. So go give it a read. Hey, Gypsy, how are you?
I'm doing great. How about you? I know you've been under the weather, unfortunately.
I'm doing a bit better.
Good. And you actually got out yesterday, didn't you, for a while? Even though you hadn't been...
Yeah, I did. I think I spent more time taking breaks and sitting on a rock and a stump, but... I did. I got out yesterday for a couple of hours, and this afternoon I got out as well. We got up to, it was like 63 degrees, and then I think when I got out,
Woohoo!
it was 70. So,
wow.
Yeah, it doesn't happen often, so didn't find anything, but it didn't really matter. I wasn't trapped in the house, and it was beautiful. And the fields are semi-thawing, so I'm pretty excited about that.
Wow. Spring is starting to make its way, huh?
Yes, thankfully.
Boy, it's sprung here. It feels like everything's so green. We got a lot of rain lately, and we got more rain today. So I can't wait to get out and do some metal detecting once all this rain finishes up. It's supposed to be partly cloudy tomorrow and the next day, and then thunderstorms the rest of the week. So we shall see. Lots of rain. But it always makes it nice and pretty after, and really good increases the sensitivity when we're digging in some of those old spots, where it's been dry. Probably does the same thing for you after the snow melts, I'm sure.
A muddy mess.
Yeah, muddy mess. Somewhere like mudlarking than detecting.
A little bit, yeah.
So, I did get out for just a short while yesterday and did a little dump digging nearby. Found a few little goodies, but nothing, too exciting. So I did get a first yesterday. I got an old roller skate, part of a roller skate. That was interesting.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was neat.
And I saw you have a new video out too with some of the dump digging.
Oh yeah, that one was with my buddy Scott. He lives close to me, and usually I travel closer to him, and we go metal detecting. But this time, I discovered this new dump near where I live with my metal detector. It was solid hits everywhere, so I just decided to dig down and scrape, and there I got, found this dump. So that's all in my new video. So y'all be sure and go check out my new video. Got some pretty cool finds. Both of us did. Me and Scott was only one day out there, and we both got some really cool finds and had a blast doing it and chasing history.
Nice. It's awesome.
So I guess we'll go ahead and introduce our guest, our special guest this evening. I know a lot of you that are regulars here on our podcast may know him from past. I think he was a guest with Mike a while back or a year or so ago. I'm not sure exactly, but some of you know him in the treasure metal detecting, gold prospecting world as NuggetBrain Wayne Peterson. But we just want to say, hey, Wayne, welcome to the show.
Awesome, I'm here.
You're here. He's arrived. Good to have you.
But I'm here and you're there, so I don't know how you figure I'm here.
That's true. That's true. So Wayne is all the way over there in Colorado, and of course I'm in Texas, and Amanda's in Maine. So we've got people from all over. So, Wayne, if you don't mind, for those of you, our guests that don't know you, go ahead and just start out. Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into metal detecting, gold prospecting, and how long you've been doing it, what you started with. Give us an introduction, if you don't mind.
Okay, well, it's all my parents' fault. When I was 9 years old, we didn't have video games and stuff like that growing up. I grew up in the Chicagoland area, and my parents thought it would be pretty cool for me to get a metal detector, so my dad went and bought a Radio Shack metal detector. It was like $49. He bought it, and first day out, I found a ring about 4 inches off the edge of our sidewalk and about 4 inches deep. It's a gold ring, and I still have it today. We could never find the owner because the school had closed down several years before, so I still have the gold ring, and I show it to people all the time. And then just growing up in life, living my life in Wisconsin and Illinois, I played with the metal detector, treasure hunted, and, just growing up as a kid. And then when I came to Arizona in 1983, my uncle said, "Do you want to go gold prospecting?" And I didn't know what he was talking about, so he took me to an old historical town called Stanton, Arizona. It's outside of Wickenburg, and went up there for 2 days gold prospecting. And at the end of the first day, I found a little picker nugget, which I thought was huge. I mean, it was, maybe the size of a grain of rice. And I remember pinching it between my two fingers and running up to getting all the equipment put up on the side of the hill and running up and showing my uncle, and my aunt was sitting there, and they started laughing at me, and they said, you need to get bigger stuff. And that was the stuff that was in August of 83. And I really got big into gold prospecting, and I've done really well. We spent 30 days. A buddy of mine needed an operation, so we had 30 days, and we went digging in the side of a hill up in the Stanton area on private property. And in 30 days, between the two of us, we took out just a little bit over 22 ounces of gold. And the bigger nuggets we kept, and that was in 83. And in 84, 85, I purchased a Chevy Blazer for 2 of those gold nuggets that I had. And they were just about a quarter to a half an ounce each. I traded those 2 gold nuggets for a Chevy Blazer for a tour company I worked for. And I still have the proof of the gold nuggets because the Blazer's still sitting in my driveway. We still use it. And I mean, I just progressed from there. I spent 4.5 months in Nome, Alaska on a big operation. Got paid very well for that. And then that was in 2009, 2010, I went to Fairbanks, Alaska. I did okay. 2012, I was on the Gold Rush TV show, and they railroaded me. I was up there for about 3 weeks, and what they wanted me to do was come up and fix all their equipment and everything, and then they got rid of me off the show. They found an excuse, and I mean, we don't talk about it anymore, but that was it. And so I've been gold prospecting ever since. I have 9 claims here in Colorado with a partner of mine, and we're looking to get some more. We're going to try and get some over in Utah, and we're just having a good time with it. And when I became president of Watts, I specialized in gold prospecting. Jim Fierro just passed away yesterday. He specialized in treasure hunting. Keith Wills specializes in metal detecting. And a few of our other members, they all had their specialties. So we just kind of blew everything up with the, let's say, the treasure hunting world with Watts. And I've been involved with Watts. This is my 6th year, I believe, of being president, and we're doing really good. We have hunts. We do all kinds of activities. We do shows, and we work with kids and, stuff like that. So that's it. That's it in a nutshell, if you want to call it
that. So, Wayne, let's go back to the beginning. So you started with the Radio Shack brand. That's what I started with, too, and found my first ring that got me hooked. And then I guess if one find, and I got to see that ring when we were in Colorado at the
Outdoor Expo.
The expo. And I was there at the Watts booth, not last year, but the previous year there with Wayne and the Watts. Explain to them what Watts means, those of you that aren't familiar with Watts, what the Watts stands for, if you don't mind, and a little bit more about that organization. When it was started, you just said that, I know you just mentioned several of the key people, Jim, yourself, and Keith Wills. Could you explain a little bit more to our audience that doesn't know about what the Watts is?
Watts stand, we abbreviate it because it's a lot. When you're trying to write out a check or anything, you write Watts on there. It takes a long time. So we abbreviate it down to WWATS, which stands for Worldwide Association of Treasure Seekers. And when we had our big website going on .org on the regular web, we had over 240,000 members that were free members. And when I came into the organization, they had no money, no way to pay for anything. And I said, well, we need to charge for a membership. So we settled upon $36 for a 3-year membership. So basically it costs you $1 a month to join. And it gives you discounts. Our big hunt we have coming up in June, if you're a Watts member, you get to take $10 off the top. So your first year of being a Watts member just costs you $26. And then if you do it another year, then it costs you $16. So you get your money back. And we do things all over the country. Keith Wills had he did 20 or 21 years of metal detecting hunts, and the location he had wasn't suitable anymore. So he hasn't done it for 2 years now. And he's got other things going on with his store and metal detecting repairs. So, we do shows. We did the Outdoor Expo last year, and we did it again this year. And Calico sent Carolyn, and they did really good there. They sold a bunch of metal detectors. We had a busy booth all weekend long. Last year when we were up there, we had a busy booth. This year, what we did at the show in Denver, was we set up a little gold panning demonstration. My son was there. He's a geologist. He's going to be a geologist next year. He'll graduate. But he was demonstrating gold panning and how to pan for gold, and he was teaching the kids. And then we had a little sandbox set up full of sand, and we threw some coins in there, and we gave the kids a pinpointer, and they dug in the sand, and when they found a coin, they turned it in, and they got a prize for that, and then we threw the coin back in. I would say over the weekend we did probably 2,200 kids played in that, because that's about how many prizes I brought out, and we ran out on Sunday. So I had to go into my, what I call my personal stash, and, we were running out, so we just wanted the kids all to have a good time. We were selling gold pans and metal detectors and other stuff, so, but I do a big show in Durango, Colorado. I've been doing it since 2004. I've been doing gem and mineral show. In fact, today I just got the contract for this year, and they contacted me a couple weeks ago and wanted to make sure I was going to be there because, I've been doing it since 2004, and we set up 2 big panning tubs, and we teach kids how to pan for gold. And for my kids, when they were in 1st grade all the way up to just before they went into junior high, I would go to the schools and give talks on gold prospecting and talk about the history of gold prospecting in Colorado, because that was their Colorado week. And I teach the kids how to pan for gold. And what's really cool about it is I did that from, my son was in 1st grade, and now he's going to be 22. So what I did was the schools would call me, even though my kids weren't in that class. They did that in 3rd grade class. But the teachers would see me there at 1st grade and say, "Can you come and do my 3rd grade class so we get to that?" And I did that every year for 10 years. And now I have kids that see me at the show in Durango and said, "Hey, you taught me when I was in 3rd grade." And, this is going back to my son's 1st grade year. And this is my son or this is my daughter. Can you show them how to do this? And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" "Well, you taught me how to do it at school." So, when you have kids coming up to you, or I go into the high school and kids come up and say, "Oh, you're the gold panning guy. You know how to do that." I did that in 3rd grade. So it's kind of a compliment that, all these years, since 2004, I've been doing this, which is pretty cool. And then I go to shows all over the West Coast here. I've been to Moab for the Gem and Mineral show there. I go up to Creede, Colorado. I do the Durango, and several other shows that, I've been there once or twice. So, but all these people want me to come back because I teach people how to pan for gold, and we do it for free.
It's important, for our youth to be learning, about all of this, metal detecting, passing it on, the gold prospecting, the gold panning, and to teach our youth because, they are, our future, the future detectors after we move on, just like one of the greats you spoke of a while ago, our friend Jim, one of the founders of Watts. And it's so important in what y'all are doing. And I do know also in the past, didn't Keith, as part of the Watts, the Worldwide Association of Treasure Seekers, he went to Congress too, didn't he? Is that correct?
Yeah, both Keith and Jim have been to Congress and state legislators and everything, fighting for not only our metal detecting rights, but our land rights usage. And, Keith, when he was meeting with Congress and the senators and special subcommittees, he got a lot of things passed, that the ERPLA laws and all that. So, it was very beneficial. And it's time that we need to go back to Washington and just kind of make everything right again, because, these new agents that are out there for the different agencies, they don't know what the laws are. So we just need to go and talk with them, and we've been talking about doing that for a couple years now. So it has to be the right time to do it. And this being an election year is not a good time to do it.
Right. Right. That's true. But that is an important thing that people need to know about the Worldwide Association. And if you do decide to become a member of WAT, and find out and contact Wayne as president of how you can help with this organization and help, in our hobby, etc. You can also go to WAT on Facebook, and you can contact Wayne and get more information about Watts and how you could help, or things that Watts offers with the gold claims and upcoming hunts, and different things all over that are happening. So I know, Amanda, I'm sure you've got a few questions for Wayne. Do you have one you'd like to go ahead and ask Wayne?
Yeah. So do you have like a bucket list item or anything like that that's still like a white whale that you're hoping to find or hoard? Or I know that you were talking about some of these treasures that you're looking to find as well.
Right. Well, I'm looking for those, but my biggest treasure that I hope to accomplish here within the next few years is to sell everything off that I own and buy a boat, a big sailboat, and sail to Tahiti and live on an island over there. There's over 1,000 islands. That's my biggest bucket list.
That's awesome.
Oh, there you go. Then you could do all the metal detecting on the beaches if you wanted, right?
Yeah, no. When I was in Tahiti in 1996, I didn't see one metal detector out there, and I should have brought one, but I didn't. So, yeah. As far as bucket list locally, I would love to find this Fen treasure. I mean, we got it narrowed down. Jim and I, we spent, probably a total of 20 days with my kids and Jim up there looking for it. And that was just on site looking. That didn't include the research and working on everything like that. And then there's some other treasures that Jim and I had discussed on looking for, and we exchanged notes, and I got notes on it. And those are the ones that, to keep Jim's legacy, I would like to find those and be able to give him some credit, because he's the one who got me into looking for those. And the biggest thing I want to do is I want to be able to make it so my kids, my grandkids, my great-grandkids all have the same kind of deals that I had and that you guys have. That's what I'm looking for, is to be able to keep this going. Because these kids with video games and, all that, I don't get it. My kids, you can't even keep them in the house half the time because they want to be outside, playing outside, detecting, or we got into magnet fishing and stuff like that too. So, I'm all about the family and building the family and having activities for the family to do. Because if you go to gem and mineral shows or gold shows or any kind of shows that involve the outdoor life, go and look at the crowd that's there. it's everybody above 50. I mean, you got 90% people above 50 that are either getting ready to retire or they're retired. And then you got a few kids, and they don't really seem to be interested. But it's up to us at this age to get these kids involved. And Gypsy, you know my son, he's out there, and he's playing, and he's working with the kids. And to see, you know, he's 21, he'll be 22 in April. And when you see a kid out there wanting to teach somebody else, that's important, because that kid that he's teaching is going to say, well, a kid taught me how to do this, not some old man. So, you know, it's just going to go on, and I see a lot of it. I've taught a lot of people.
Right.
I met a lot of people, you know, that their grandkids are in metal detecting or gold prospecting or geocaching's another big one out there. So it's out there. We just have to go and we have to reel them in, because they're not going to reel us in.
Well, it's really awesome what you're doing with Watts, and like, for instance, when y'all were at the booth in Colorado, showing the kids, you know, teaching them how to gold pan, teaching them how to use a metal detector. I'm assuming y'all might have been using a handheld detector.
Yeah, then a pinpointer.
And passing that, you know, information onto our kids, as like Nancy mentioned in the chat, you know, about how kids today, you know, it's true, like what you were saying about it. I've tried so many times to get my kids. In the past, they would go out on adventures with me and go, you know, while I'd be metal detecting and exploring, and they would go exploring. And it's become less and less of that as they've gotten older, but still, you know, I have to drag them sometimes. But it's a shame that our youth is not out, you know, in nature and enjoying all of this. But it's up to us, just like what you just said, it's up to us to pass that on. And already, Wayne, I know you have, just with your children and the people and the kids that you've taught in the past and helped influence in the treasure hunting world. And as we were discussing, our good friend, you know, Jim, that passed on, that, you know, helped start Watts, and it's being passed on, and as you will pass it on to the next generation, etc., and to keep this going. And so where was I going? I was getting to, I think it's really wonderful what you're doing, and just want to encourage you to keep on keeping on and keep that legacy going, just as, you know, you and Keith and Jim have passed that torch with the Watts presidency down, and it, you know, that torch keeps being passed on. But what I was getting to, I remember Jim telling me a story when we were in Colorado at my brain keeps at the expo, but I was wondering, is there a special treasure story, or maybe one of your treasure hunts that you and Jim or something went on together, something memorable, or maybe that you would like to share with us, you know, a treasure hunting adventure, or maybe it was something y'all were, you know, looking for one of the big caches, or anything you could share a story with us tonight.
Well, I'll tell you, Jim was a unique person, as most people that knew him know. He was very unique. And I treasure every conversation I had with him, and I could remember almost every one of them. And it was just, we need to do this, we need to do that, and, you know, we need to center these things down. And we gone gold prospecting down in Arizona. When I used to run a week-long rendezvous. 3 days is long now, but I used to do a week-long one down there. It went from 8 to 5 every day. Wow. And, I'm out in the field, gold prospecting, dry washers, and high bankers and stuff like that. But every moment I spent with Jim was just a treasure. We didn't really find anything huge, but the friendship was there, and it's just the teaching between the two of us and getting my kids involved and other people. That's where the main focus was. Just spending time with Jim, my treasure.
Right. And that's the best kind of treasure is the friends we meet, metal detecting, and the friends that, like meeting you, meeting some of the people that are in our chat that are listening tonight, like Jersey History Hunters, Bill, would love to meet you, met a lot of the people in our chat. Those are our greatest treasures right there. But one particular story I was thinking of, I remember him telling me a story about, it was a cache that he was looking for. And if I remember correctly, I may be totally off, but it might have been some gold bars or a gold cache, something that was made.
That was the Jolly treasure down in New Mexico, down near the Caballos. Okay. Jolly found a mountain of gold bars back in 1940-something. And in 1952, he started moving those gold bars out. He was moving them out in 10 bars to a stash, and the bars were about 100 pounds, I believe, of solid gold bars. And the U.S. government found out about it and took it away from him. And he fought over it for years, and then he was murdered. And Jim knew the guy. Jim knew Jolly and his wife and everything else, so Jim spent many, many years down there trying to find it. And that was supposed to be our October hunt this year, was to go down, because Jim had narrowed it down, and then with the different locating equipment he just purchased, about $30,000 worth, we were going to take it down there, triangulate it in, and center it in. He had a pretty good idea where it was, and we discussed it and drew maps and figured out how we would get to it. The only problem is it was on private land, and to get to go onto private land would be next to impossible. Jim even said, we'll have to go in there at night. And I said, Jim, at night? Go on. He goes, oh, no. I know how to take care of this. I've been there before. I was close. So, it kind of freaked me out, but he kind of reassured me that we could get away with it. And if we could go in and get 1 or 2 bars each, we'd be happy campers.
Oh my gosh. That's too scary for me. I wouldn't know.
Oh my God. It was kind of terrifying, but he goes, oh, we could get night vision goggles and all this. And I said, Jim, really?
Funny.
You had to know Jim to get his humor out of him.
Right. Boy, he can tell some treasure stories, I tell you. One right after the other, too.
Oh, yeah. Keith Wills is the same way. When when my campfire nights, I've been doing rendezvous since 2006. 2005, 2006, I started doing the week-long ones down in Arizona. We'd have a campfire. We'd start the campfire at like 7 o'clock at night after dinner. And there was times that you look at your watch, it's 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and say, hey, we got to get to bed. We got to be up in a couple hours to do another seminar. So well, you got 20, 30 people sitting around and everybody's telling stories. Terry Carter, for example, I mean, he came out, when you were there with him. He started telling stories, and, I think it was about 1 o'clock in the morning that night when we finally ended up going to bed. But, that's how it is. You go around the campfire and you tell your stories, and, some of them are very true, and some of them are, a little sketchy. But
you're right. Well,
you got to question them. And then when you hear the story again, you say, well, it's got to be true because he had the same exact words last time.
Right. Well, yeah, I know meeting Terry Carter, he's got some great stories, and he's interviewed some great people with a lot of the, and one of them was Jim, and some of the legends and that have, found a lot of caches, the big treasures, David wants to know in chat, do you happen to know where those gold bars originated from?
They're saying it was in the mountaintop, and that was the weird thing. There was Jolly was walking around hunting or something, and he went up on a mountaintop and he saw like an opening. There was like an entranceway, but it wasn't an entrance like, a mine shaft you see today. It was just, he just looked there and then looked a little farther and looked a little farther, and he got down into it quite a few feet down, and there it was, the glory of it all, these gold bars and gold coins.
And to be like Spanish gold, I'm assuming. Would it have been Spanish or?
They believe it was the Spanish gold from the conquistadors had brought it up from Mexico after they stole it from the king in Spain, and they melted it down in the bars. And okay. I can tell you a story about Arizona. In 1968-69, I lived in Apache Junction. I lived right at the base of the mountain, Apache Junction, so my days off of work were Thursdays and Fridays. So Thursday I was in the Superstition Mountains all the time because it was only a mile from my front door. And there was nobody between me and the mountain at the time. Now there's thousands of houses out there. But if you go and you look you see a postcard and you see they show a mountain and it says the Superstition Mountains. And people think that's the Superstition Mountains. That mountain there in that picture is actually called the Flattron. It's in the Superstition Mountain range, but they call it the Superstition Mountains just for promotional reasons. That's where Jacob Walsh had his gold mine up there. That's a whole other story. But anyway, look at it. And when you get closer to the mountain, you'll see in the side of the mountain, about the middle of that picture, you're going to see it looks like a half a moon. And back in 1980 or 1987, 88, my buddy and I were up there. We were trying to get to the top of the Flattron because we heard that an airplane crashed back in the 60s. So we wanted to go up there and see the single-engine airplane. Well, we were about halfway up, and it started raining. So we came back down, and we got into this half-moon thing. It looks like a big cave when you're up there. It goes in about 200-300 feet, and it's about as wide, I would say. And we're sitting up in there, and this is what happened in 68, 69. There was two brothers and another guy, their friend. They were up there, and it started raining, so they got into the same area that we were in, and they were sitting there, and the rain was coming down so hard that they couldn't see outside the face of this. because it's a sheer cliff right above it. And the one brother looked over and said, "Look at that over there." And it was like an indent in the ground, and it was a pretty big indent. It was about 25 by 30, maybe 30 by 40, something like that. It was just an indent. And they're watching the rain coming down, but the rain wasn't hitting that spot, so it wasn't a washout. And they were sitting in this sandy loam up there, and they're looking around, and nowhere else was this indent. So they decided to go back the next day. So they had to park about a mile away because even when I was there was no roads up to the base of the mountain that close. So they grabbed a couple picks and shovels, and the three of these guys went up there and told their mom and dad they were going to be gone for a couple days. They're going camping in the mountains, and it was common, so no problem. So these three guys go up there, and I'm going to say they're in their early to mid-20s at the time. And they go up there, and they start digging in this indent. Well, they get down about 7-8 feet, and they hit, it looked like railroad ties stacked up, but they were logs without the bark. So they broke through that, and inside was a cache of gold. A huge cache of gold. And they questioned it because it looked like sticks. You know, like somebody had piled up sticks in there, but the sticks were real heavy. The sticks were real heavy. So they scraped one down, and then they started hauling it out of there. Well, within a few months, one of the brothers, I don't know if it was the younger one or the older one, had passed away. Just all of a sudden dead. And, you know, back then in the 60s, they didn't have the medical research they have now, so they buried him. And then a couple months later, the buddy that went up there, he died. And now this was suspicious, but they couldn't find anything. And then the third one died about 6-7 months after him. And the family said, there's something going on. There's a curse or whatever. These guys, they brought all this gold down, and it looked like sticks and log-type looks. And so they exhumed all three bodies and checked the bodies out, and they found out they all died of mercury poisoning. Damn. What it was, the Spaniards had taken the gold bars and the gold, whatever gold they got from the King of England or the King of Spain when they brought it up through South America after they stole it from the king, or the king wanted them to hide it. And what they did is they melted down the gold and they made tracks in the ground, and they poured the hot gold into what looked like sticks and logs, and then they threw rock on top of it. So they're going, well, that's weird. You know, why would they do that? Well, the Spaniards had known about mercury, and mercury was something that helped them do all this. They never really came up with a final conclusion that I could ever find. But what they did is the Spaniards made these all look like logs and everything else. Well, they had mule trains. You know, this is back 1400, 1600, 1700, whenever. I don't remember the years. But they took and they stacked all these sticks on the side of these mules, and these mule trains used to be anywhere from 50 to 100 mules long. So when they're going from Mexico, South America through Mexico, and they're coming up into the United States, which wasn't the United States back then, the Native Americans would see it and they would laugh. Why are these guys carrying sticks and logs? Well, they didn't know that it was gold bars.
Wow.
They had buried it up, hid it up there. For some reason, they were getting chased or whatever. And it's right off the Peralta Trail, if you want to do some history reading on the Peralta Trail. But these guys found that stash up there. And that was back in the 68, 69 when that happened. And, there's all kinds of treasures in the Superstition Mountains. I met a man back in 1987, 88, and we were talking about treasure hunting, and I was telling him I go to the Superstition Mountains once a week, and I spend a couple days up there, and he says, oh, you got to come to my house. You got to come to my house. And I said, why? You just come to my house. I go to his house, and, everybody has a front closet in their house where they keep their coats and everything. Mm-hmm. Well, he had one of the front closets in the front of his house. He says, open that door up. And I thought, man, he was going to have a cat or a dog jump out at me or a snake or something. I opened it up, and he had standing in there a full set of armor with the sword and everything else.
Wow.
And I, you get that. And, him and I, we knew each other about 6 months, and we talked a lot. And he says, don't tell anybody. I found this in the Superstition Mountains. And I said, where? He said, I'm not going to tell you where. He said, you see that map up there? I said, yeah. And he had a huge, there's a topographical map of all the Superstition Mountains. He goes, see all those marks on there? That's where I find stuff. And I said, wow. Which one did you find this? He said, I'm not going to tell you. But he found a full suit of armor with the hood and the sword and, everything, the booties. It was just phenomenal. And then...
That's incredible.
In 1985, I was out with one of my buddies, and I didn't know very many people. I moved to Arizona in 83. In 85, I had a couple friends, through the gold prospecting club and everything. And a buddy of mine and I, we were hiking around in the Superstition Mountains, and we see this cabin up on the hillside. I said, hey, there's a cabin up there. He goes, yeah, let's go check it out. So we're climbing up the side of this hill, and it was pretty steep. And, we could see the cabin pretty good. It was a small one. It was maybe 10 by 20, 10 by maybe 22. It was very small. And we get just up to the breaking point where we come up over the top. And the next thing I know is I got a 45 in my face wanting to know what I'm doing up there. And I looked at the guy and I says, wait a minute, we're just out exploring. Well, come to find out his name was Bob Ward. And this is another thing that anybody could check out. Bob Ward was a friend of DeGracias. If anybody looks up DeGracias paintings, he was a famous Native American painter, abstract, in Arizona. And he was a friend of DeGracias. Well, DeGracias already passed away by then when we met this guy. And when I found out he was Bob Ward and I knew his history with DeGracias, I said, can you tell me where those DeGracias paintings are? And he says, I could do one better. I said, really? He goes, oh, yeah. You got $15 in your pocket? I said, well, I got a $20 bill. He goes, I'll take it. So he took my $20 bill and he handed me one of his books. It was the stories of Bob Ward. And in that book was the story of DeGracias and the DeGracias famous paintings. DeGracias, back in the 60s, I believe it was, late 60s, was a up-and-coming artist. I mean, his paintings weren't worth really anything as they are today, but he would do these abstract Native American paintings, anywhere from a postcard size up to a picture, a good-sized picture. And he would take them down to Scottsdale or Phoenix or Apache Junction, wherever anybody he could sell one. If he sold one for $200-300, he was happy, because then he could go buy what he called grub. And he had all these paintings. He had hundreds of paintings in his cabin, and his cabin wasn't too far from there where DeGracias was. And he had all these paintings, And he would make a few dollars. He'd maybe do $1,000. And back in the 60s, that was a lot of money. Maybe he'd do $1,000 a year. And he was a hermit. But he was an awfully good painter for his time, and nobody really knew about him. So his kids went to him one day and found out that he had all these paintings. And they said, Dad, we want some of your paintings so we could sell them. We need money. He goes, you can't have any of my paintings, and you're not getting any money. He disowned his kids. Well, his kids got all upset and turned him into the IRS. And the IRS showed 3 agents one day at the Gracias place. First, they went to Bob Ward, according to him. And then they went over to the Gracias, and they spent a good part of the day, early in the morning to late afternoon, inventorying all these pictures that the Gracias had and taking pictures and descriptions and everything, and said, well, if you ever sell one of these, we're going to come after you because now we have all of it, all records. And if we see one of these for sale somewhere, you're going to owe taxes on it. He said, fine. Well, these people were about 3/4 of the way down the mountain getting back into their vehicle. And they were about 3/4 of the way down, and they had maybe another mile and a half to get to the vehicle. But by the time they got down to the 3/4 mark, huge flames started burning out of his house. He burnt his house down with all the paintings and destroyed everything except 12 of them. He took 12 of those paintings, cut them out because they were on canvas, cut them out and rolled them up, and went and seen Bob Ward and gave them to Bob Ward and said, I want you to take and bury these in the mountains. Don't tell me where you're going to bury them because I don't want the IRS or my kids questioning me, and I'll crack on them. So Bob Ward took them, and he took a Native American, I believe he was an Apache Indian, and they took and they got these PVC pipes, and they put them in it was like a PVC pipe that we know today, but it was a pipe like that, a plastic pipe, put 12 paintings in individual tubes and made 4 bundles of 3 and tied them all together. They were all glued and sealed up so no weather could get in them. And Bob Ward and this Native American went up into the mountains and buried them. And they buried them up in an area called Angel Springs. Well, I heard about this story from my uncle back in 1983, and now I have the book. Now I know where to go. And my buddy, I took 2 of my buddies, and we were up there for 5 days. It was 35 miles off the main road. We had a guy drive us in off the main road and drop us off at a drop-off point and said, be back here in 5 days about 5, 6 o'clock in the evening and pick us up. So we hiked in another 15, maybe 20 miles in that day and set up camp. And we had our topographical maps, and this is before GPSs and all that. So we had compasses, and we set out every day to go look for this. And we knew where we were going. We were going to Angel Springs, and that was about a mile and a quarter from where our camp was. And we started going up in there. And according to the map, we were in the right spot, the right area where we wanted to be. The only thing is we were looking at a 2,000-foot cliff directly in front of us. It was a box canyon. Wow. And I said, the map shows this is the canyon that goes through. It's not a box canyon. So we had to hike back and then go up the ridge line and then up and over down to the other side. And it was about 3/4 of a mile before it turned into a canyon again. So we hiked all that, and our last day, our 5th day there, we're hiking out, and we get to our pickup point, and my buddy's not there to pick us up. So we sat there for about an hour, and I said, let's start walking. We walked all the way, probably 5 miles out, and the guy was coming in a pickup truck. And we flagged him down, and he gave us a ride out to the main road. Now, we got backpacks on our back. We brought MREs in. We wanted to go lightweight. We had our rifles and our guns with us because, two-legged snakes up there, you never know. And he gave us a ride to the main highway, and then we hitched from the main highway to get home. And my buddy goes, "Oh, I forgot to pick you up." So the DeGracias paintings are still up there. And never did get back. So, but
wow. What have been this year, though?
We got a hold of BLM office about 3-4 days later, and we had everything drawn out on our topo maps because we had 2 topo maps. We had one from the 30s, early 40s, late 30s, and then we had a current one, and neither one of them showed this box canyon. So we drew it all out for them, and we brought it to the BLM office, and we spent probably 2 to 3 hours up there showing them what we found, and we even had some pictures. We had developed our pictures, and they couldn't believe it. So there's another story about how that was all done back when they did topo maps. But nowadays they use mapping with satellites and everything. So I'm sure that Box Canyon's in on the newer maps. I haven't checked the last time they made it up there. But yeah, I've been on some adventures myself.
It sounds like it. So tell us, I know a lot of people that, you said you started with a Radio Shack metal detector. What detector or detectors did you get after that, or have you used? And then what detector do you use now?
Let's see. I went from a Radio Shack, which I still own. It's still in my collection, and it still works pretty good. I went to a White's. I don't remember what the number was, but it actually had a wooden coil on it. It's not plastic like we have now. It was a wooden coil, and it was all in resin. I believe I still have that one. I played with Mind Labs. Now I have a Garrett. I have a AT Max. I started out with a 300 and worked my way up to the AT Max. And as soon as Garrett comes out with the new one, I'm sure I'll have to get one of those. But my kids started out with Ace 250s, and my son is now at AT Gold. And my daughter's got one that Keith gave her. It's one of the green ones. I believe it's a 2500 or something like that.
Cool.
But we got 7-8 metal detectors in the house now.
Wow.
So
that's cool.
Yeah, I've used the Bounty Hunters. I used the Technetics, and I've had them all. And I really like the Garretts because they're easy, and as far as I'm concerned, they're lightweight. People are complaining, you could go get one of these, a Simplex or whatever. It's only a few ounces. I said, yeah, but at least I know I'm swinging something and I get exercise at the end of the day.
Right. So I know Amanda probably has a few more questions for you, but after she asks a few questions, if you will, what we'll do is we'll close with, if you could tell us a little bit more about the upcoming rendezvous hunt in Colorado. But before that, Amanda, you've got a few questions or a question for Wayne?
Yeah. So besides buying a boat and heading to Tahiti to metal detect there, where else, if you could detect anywhere, where would you want to detect?
Well, I would like to, like I said, find the Fen treasure. I would like to find those DeGracias paintings. Before I get too old, I'd like to get up there and find those because I still have a pretty good idea where to go. And then also, I did years and years of research when I lived in Arizona, and I learned about Jacob Walsh, who's known as the Lost Dutchman. And I got it pretty well narrowed down. I was very fortunate in 1992, 93 to meet the lady Joyce, who was a child. She was 5 years old, and Jacob Walsh, her mom owned a beauty salon in Wickenburg, Arizona. And when he would leave the Vulture Mine in the afternoon, he would go to Wickenburg and spend the night in the back room of her mom's beauty salon. And as a little 5-year-old girl, she would see the gold that Jacob Walsh had, the nuggets and everything. And when she was that age, he told her where to look in the Superstition Mountains because he had nobody else to tell. And he figured, this little 5-year-old's not going to say anything. Well, she was in her early 90s, I believe, late 80s, early 90s when I had met her. And she could not see very well. She was maybe 10% sight in both of her eyes. And I got to meet her. She was my next door neighbor when I lived in Sholo, Arizona. And she says, you have any topographical maps? I said, yeah, what do you want me to bring? She goes, well, bring me this certain area. So I said, well, I don't know which one that is. It's 3 of them. So I took them. And she took a magnifying glass, about a 5-inch magnifying glass, and one of those big magnifying sheets that older people use, to read fine print, along with her bottle cap glasses. And she's scanning this map with her 2 hands and her glasses, and we had the brightest lights on you could imagine so she could see. And she says, take a pencil, move it around, and I'll tell you when to stop. So she moved the pencil around, and she said, right there, mark that spot. And she said, it's right in this area here. She goes, it's really hard for me to see, but I'll bet you'll be really close to it. So I made one trip out there back in 94, 95, before I moved to Colorado. I made one trip out there, and it's in one of those places that maybe 20 miles away, people could see you out there. So it's really risky to go out there to spend 2-3 days walking around, looking for the entrance for this mine and everything. Would be really stupid to do. So I figured I could go out there for a day or spend the night and leave halfway through the day and not draw suspicion, but be actively looking. And that's another thing that Jim and I had talked about. As soon as we got more familiar with this equipment he had, this long distance stuff, we were going to go down there and try and find the Lost Dutchman's mine and prove that there really was a mine and it was really a stash of Jacob Walsh's. Everybody says, oh no, there's a mine up there. He was a high grader like you wouldn't believe. He worked for several mines and he high graded and stashed gold. And this is the story that Joyce had given me also at the time. So he was just a big time high grader. So I'd like to find that one someday too, or maybe teach my son and have my son go find it one day.
There you go. Yeah. Pass that on, and maybe he might find it if you don't get a chance to go back and look. So I think Mike Hare had a question for you in the chat. He asked if you had a detector for sale. And then I know you have a Tesoro. He loves Tesoros.
I got a brand new.
Interested.
I got a brand new Super Lobo. I think it's the gray box, brand new in the box, never used. And I have an Ace 400. And next 2 weeks, I got a guy coming. He's flying in from, I think, in Amanda's area, from Maine or somewhere over there. He's flying in. and he wants to purchase it because he's coming out to do. I'm taking him out. Him and his son. Son lives here in Durango, and I'm going to take them out gold prospecting for a day, and then I'm going to take them down to the camp so they could go down and do some metal detecting.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, let's see. If you will, could you give us a quick rundown on the upcoming rendezvous hunt in Colorado in June?
Sure. It's June 26th through the 28th, Mancos, Colorado. It's at the Four Corners Christian Camp. I think they renamed it, but we know it as a Four Corners Christian Camp. It's part of our church. It's a 36-acre piece of property. Historically, back in the 20s and 30s, it was a fox farm. They would raise foxes there, and then they would sell the pelts to the Europeans. I think it was over in England or Great Britain or something like that. They would sell the pelts because the ladies wanted real fox furs. So, yes, there is a lot of trash out there, but you know what? There's a lot of other good stuff. It's 36 acres. It's all planted. I have about half of a 5-gallon bucket right now, and as soon as the ground thaws a little bit, I'll be out there planting more. There's over 5,000 wheat cent pennies out there in one of our hunt fields. There's silver out there. People find watches and rings and the stuff that we didn't plant from the old fox farm are out there. And we're going to have 2 hunts on Friday, 2 hunts on Saturday. And I know I'm going to have one for sure on Sunday, but possibly be 2. We have a night hunt that's lights out, no lights allowed. And I know Gypsy's been to one of those or a few of those. And Watts is the one who came up with all these hunts that everybody else is using now. Keith Wills and Jim and myself, we invented a bunch of hunts. But this year on Saturday, we're going to have a ladies' hunt. And all the ladies that come, if they are registered or not, are welcome to go into the hunt. It's no metal detectors. You won't need one because you're going to see everything right in front of you. What we do is we have this huge tree there. It's a big pine tree. And we hang jewelry in there. Necklaces and bracelets and all kinds of stuff. And we give you a stick that's about 9 to 10 feet long with a nail on the end. And you can't snap it out of the tree. You have to hook it out of the tree.
Oh, wow.
From 3 to 4 ladies around this tree at one time. Whatever you take off that tree in the allotted minute to 2 minutes, you get to keep. And I'll probably have close to $100, $150 worth of costume jewelry on that, hanging on that tree. Now, if the guy wants to get in there, we don't have a problem. Any guy that wants to get in there, we want you to come out and enjoy the ladies' hunt and be involved. But you got to put a dress on, and you got to wear a bonnet, and we have full rights to use what you want to do.
Oh, I love it. That's funny. You're always clever. You come up with some of the most creative hunts. The year that I went, Wayne had a hunt. One was the flag hunt. I really enjoyed that, where you would use your metal detector. You go find a token, and it would match a number on a flag, and then you go grab the flag and then turn it in. But there was usually 2 flags with that same number on it, so you had to be the first one to find that number to turn it in for a prize. It was a lot of fun.
And the biggest winner of that was Gypsy. brought in. What was really funny is she was bringing in the numbers that she had her stuff in there, hats and shirts and, what do you call that?
Yeah, I donated a bunch of farms.
I think you won about 5 or 6 of those. So, yeah, we do that. We do a Speedo hunt. And don't worry, you don't have to worry about bringing a Speedo. It's all supplied. We have, you just interchange your Speedos with everyone. I have another hunt that Sunday I'm trying to put together. What it's going to be is going to be 2 people. A spotter, a metal detector person, and a digger. Not one word could be said. All you could do is point. So the tokens or stuff like that will be buried in the ground. And the first person goes out and finds a spot. Now he's going to have to have headphones on because you can't hear the beep. And all he could do is point, and the other person has to dig it up for a token. And then there'll be prizes given out there. I'm working on that work for the second hunt on Sunday. I like to have 6 hunts every year. So I'm working on that. But on Saturday, we're going to do a huge silver hunt. And depending on the amount of people is the amount of silver is going to be in the ground. And I'm looking to get between 100 and 150 people because I'd like to put, $10,000, $12,000 worth of silver in the ground. Not face value, wow. Folks, not face value. But I'm looking to plant silver in the ground. It'll be dimes, quarters, and halves, and then be tokens for the other stuff. There's also another token that's going to be out there. It wasn't found last year. It's going to be $1,000 plus this year because nobody found it. Last year was $1,000, but it was prizes and cash. So depending on the amount of people is how high that could go. It could go up maybe to $2,000 or $3,000. Matters how many people will get there, and all you got to do is find that one special token to win that prize. There's also going to be tokens out there for silver bars and silver dollars, and there's going to be tokens out there for gold nuggets or gold coins. We did that last year. We did a gold hunt last year, so I still have quite a few left, so those tokens will be out there also. But the acreage on the silver hunt is going to be probably about 6 or 7 acres that we have established for the silver hunt. And then there's a cache out there. Gypsy, I think you were up there the year that we buried it because it was found the year before. Ron Ream out of Sholo, Arizona found the first one. And he was so excited, he said, I've got to do that again. So he made up, we call a vessel. And in that vessel are gold nuggets. I believe there's a gold coin. I don't remember everything that's in there. I know there's some turquoise in there, huge pieces of turquoise, silver coins, foreign coins, all kinds of stuff. And that one is still out there. It's going on the 3rd year now that one's out there. And then there's 2 secret boxes. Those are also going on the 3rd year. And I was the only one who knew exactly where they were. And this last summer, I got harassed by people saying, oh, you didn't put them out there. You didn't put them out there. So my son is the other one. Now, you could probably twist his arm and give him a couple $100. He might lead you to one, but I doubt it. But there's 2 secret cans buried on this 36-acre property, and they're not buried. They're in plain sight. They're from your waist, Gypsy's waist, to maybe the top of my head. I'm 6'4", so it's got a good 2.5 foot range in there that these 2 secret cans are, and in those secret cans there's gold nuggets, turquoise, silver, all kinds of stuff. It's 3 years, so I don't remember even those. But those boxes are sealed with a special tape that I use. And what you do is you find one of those, you bring it up. And I have a box sitting on the table. I have 3 boxes, box number 1, box number 2, or box number 3. You bring that Secrets can in, and you have the choice. You could keep the Secrets can or pick one of the boxes. Now, obviously, if you're the first one in, you get the choice of 3 boxes. If you're the second one in, you're only going to have the choice of 2 boxes, or you could keep your Secrets can. So let's say you keep your Secrets can. Well, we take a knife, and I verified it hasn't been opened, and then I cut it open, and the person that found it gets to see what's inside. Anybody else there wants to see what's in that Secrets can has to pay $1. We call it $1 to peek. And what we do is we collect dollars. We got $70, $80 the first year I did this. And some people, or one of the persons took the box, and the other one kept the Secrets can. But we got $70, $80 out of that, out of just the Secrets can, that one. And then we turn around and we hand that to the camp. Audrey, she's an awesome lady. We handed it to Audrey, said, here, this is your money for the camp. You do what you want with it. That's a donation from all these people that peaked. And then if they pick a box, we do the same thing. We cut the box open, and the person that picked that box, they look in that box. Okay, who wants to know what's in the box? Well, everybody's hand shoots up. Get your dollar and get in line. So they cannot say what's in that box. They have to pay $1 to peek. All that money goes also to the camp. And if they end up taking a box and not the Secrets can, and it's unopened, we raffle that off, and whatever money we have goes to the camp. We had one box go for like $250. Wow. And the camp, we support that camp. This camp here is all devoted to kids. Kids that don't know, have never been in the country or anything else, and Audrey brings them out and gives them skills to learn. I mean, it's just like a summer camp for these kids. And whatever money we could raise helps support that camp, so that's why we do it. And this is our 4th year at this location, and I mean, we're always welcome with open arms, and anybody that wants to come out, you know, if you want to camp but during the summer, you just need to get a hold of Audrey, and she could arrange something for you if she's got an opening. So
tell them where they can find out more information about this upcoming hunt in June.
They could go to WWATS Worldwide Association on Facebook, and they could send me a private message. The paperwork is on there if they can't copy it. They could send me a private message with their email and phone number, and I will call them and email them the form. It's $215 for the 3 days, and that's all inclusive. All the hunts are included, and they come out for that. We also have the hunts broke down. If you wanted to do just a few hunts, we have it broken down to, well, let me put my glasses on. I'm going blind, so. If they just want to do the open range and night hunt, it's $65 per person. If they want to do just the silver hunt, it's $90 per person. Or if they want to do the major token hunt on Sunday, where we have all kinds of prizes, metal detectors and everything else, and that one's $75 per person. And then you get all the other small hunts we do, like the Speedo hunt and all that. Bring rolls of quarters with you if you want to do the Speedo hunt. We will have quarters available, so bring those. The camp is a full-service camp. It's the only, I believe, you guys have been around a lot more of these than I have on the East Coast, but I know on the West Coast, we're the only camp that is a full facility camp. We have hot showers, bathrooms, meeting hall indoors. It's $40 per night per person to bring your camper, tent, sleep under the stars, motorhome, whatever you want. They do have a couple of RV spots. I don't know how many she has left, but if you want to pull an RV in, you want electricity and water and a dump, it's right there. We have cabins, and that's $40 per person. And then if you want to stay in the cabin, you still get all the amenities of the other stuff, and you're inside a cabin, and they got bunk beds in there, and they're very comfortable. Gypsy stayed in there. I didn't ever hear her complain, so they must have been pretty good. But it's a full facility.
And the food is great. The food, too.
Well, they're outfitting all those cabins now with couches and everything else this year. And it's $45 a night. Now, people say, well, $40 a night or $45 a night, that's expensive. Well, if you consider it expensive, but you don't have to cook, you don't have to wash dishes. You know, you got to fill up your plate and you got to put your plate away, but that includes breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And if you don't get enough food during breakfast, lunch, and dinner, then you're a sad person, because Audrey makes so much food for everybody. On Saturday, she has an ice cream. She has pie, a la mold, I guess they call it, with pie, the homemade pies and ice cream. She's always got chips and pretzels and all kinds of stuff out there. I mean, it's a full-service camp. As far as I'm concerned, it's a 6-star camp, not a 5-star, because I have never found anything, and we were just so fortunate to be able to use this piece of property. Every night we have a campfire, starts right after dinner. We have a campfire, plenty of wood. Stay out as long as you want. If you want to have a beverage, we don't have a problem with you having a beverage. But if you get out of control, you will be asked to leave the property. I've never had a problem since 2005. So I don't think I'll have any other problems. But it's just everybody gets around and talks and has a great time. And we have people that come from all over the country that come to this event, and it's just a phenomenal time. And you're going to make a new friend, and you're always going to want to come back.
Very awesome. Well, all of you, if anyone is interested in going to the Rendezvous Camp in Main Coast, Colorado, check out Watts. You can find more information, as you said, on Facebook, Watts page, and or just directly message Wayne Peterson, and he can get more information to you. Well, Wayne, thank you so much for being our guest tonight. Thanks for all the stories, and it's always great hearing all those fun adventures and stuff. And thanks for sharing with us tonight. So, do we have any more questions? Anybody? I think Bill just put in the chat the Watts for the Facebook. The link for you to be able to check out more information on that, or maybe even joining Watts. Y'all be sure and check that out. Amanda, you have any more questions or anything you'd like to add tonight?
No, just thank you, Wayne, for joining us tonight.
No problem. And you better get better, because I'd like to see you come out here with Gypsy and bring all your friends out, I want all these professional metal detecting people to come out, and I want cameras everywhere doing YouTubes. That's probably the best part of YouTubes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to get her better. She has been so sick, and got to get her moving and out digging again soon. Thank you all.
When I get all done and I get my boat and I'm getting ready to sail to Tahiti, all the ladies are invited to go with me. It'll take a month.
There you go.
And I guarantee you'll be healthier by the time you get there.
Well, Nancy in chat earlier, when you mentioned that boat to Tahiti. She said, "Can I come?" So you might have an extra one there. So thank you all for listening. You all have a great evening, and be sure and join Mike and Dorian tomorrow night. I'm not sure of their guest yet, or if we're going to have a guest or their subject, but they will be live tomorrow night, same time, same bat channel. So wishing you all a fabulous night, and thanks again. Thank you all. Good night.
Good night, all.
Good night, Wayne.
Good night.